Hello, new filming setup. Don't know if it's going to work yet, we'll see. I'm sitting cross-legged on this bed and I can't do that for very long, so we'll see how long until I regret this, but let's go. Hello, I've been doing a lot of book tags lately, no particular reason. I've just been doing a lot of book tags lately, so we're going to do another one, because why not? You guys don't really seem to like them that much in the analytics. They always do like lower than all the other videos, but I'm gonna do them anyway. This time we are doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So the idea of this is that you sort of look at what you've read so far in the year and what you sort of plan to do for the rest of the year. We are a little bit over halfway through this year, but honestly at the moment time's kind of a lie, so the first question is a pretty straightforward question. How much have you read? I don't actually know how much I've read. I don't think it's much. From the start, I will check this in a second by the way, I'm not going to leave you in suspense, but from the start of my degree I've been reading a lot less. I remember the first thing that I read when I moved to uni was this like short, like a very quick guide to archaeology or something, and it was like 100 pages long and it took me like a month to read it. And it hasn't really gotten much better from there, even during lockdown. But I have been reading more during lockdown. That's a lie, I've been reading about the same amount, but I've been reading longer books. So I have been reading the same. But let's stop rambling and find out actually how many books I've read this year. 13. I've read 13 books so far this year. So before I went to uni I was reading about 50 books a year. I set my target to 40 this year. I'm not going to hit that. I'm 8 books behind schedule. It's not going to happen. But I'm still going to try. What have you been reading? So I'm getting these questions from paperfury.com. I don't know if these are the official questions or not, but they said that they've added this question in so they can put some pie charts in. I use an app, an Excel spreadsheet, where I put in all of my reading statistics and it gives me a bunch of stats. I don't have them to hand right now, but I'm going to put them on screen now. So I'll put in some images about what I have been reading. I think, should we do some guesses? I think I've read quite a lot of middle grade or children's books this year. I think the books that I've been reading have been longer. So towards the longer end of things. I've been reading more new releases, I think. So closer to now than older ones, where I usually tend to read older ones. I don't think the representation has been great. I think I probably read almost all white authors and almost all from the UK or America, which is not great, but I'm being honest about my predictions. I don't think I've read any translations, so I guess you'll see if my predictions were correct. Best book that I've read so far in 2020. So I guess I'm going to give you my top 3 and then tell you what my favourite one was. My top 3, I would say in order from worst to best, would be Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, the first one. Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, the second book in the Scythe trilogy. And then, did they say it wasn't going to be a trilogy? The Scythe series. And then the first one, the best book that I read this year, was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I was worried that it was going to be another like YouTuber book. It was not at all. I was a little bit worried that like Hank Green is all over the place, but also I shouldn't have been. I know he's a perfectionist. It was fantastic. I loved it so much and I cannot wait to read the next one. The best sequel I've read so far in 2020. So I've read a lot of sequels this year. I've read a lot of like the next book in a series. I'm just scrolling through which ones that I've read. I don't know which one my favourite one was. I really enjoyed Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, but I have already used that for an answer, so I think I'm going to go for The Sea of Monsters, which is the second book in the Percy Jackson series, which I have a video up on my channel of me reading. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I did also read Rune and Rising, which I remember really liking the series, but I remember almost nothing about this book for some bizarre reason. so I'm not going to say that that was my favourite sequel. I'm going to go with either Percy Jackson or Thunderhead, I think. A new release that I haven't read yet but I want to, that would have to go to A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour, which is the sequel to Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Why does he name his books all these awful long names? Yeah, I'm planning on probably going to town in a few days and picking it up. It came out a few days ago. I never do this. I always read books like years too late, but I enjoyed the first one so much that I really want to go out there and buy it and read it because the first one was so good. What is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year? I don't really anticipate releases. I read books so late that I don't really mind. I anticipate reading a book. There might be a sequel, but I tend to read books so late that all of the series I'm reading are already out. Yeah, I don't really wait for books to come out. The only books that I have really been waiting for was A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour, and even then I'm not like really desperate to get it because otherwise I would have got it already because it is already out. Biggest disappointment of this year? I don't think there has been any major disappointments this year. There has been books that I've read that I haven't enjoyed that much. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist I think might be up there because I heard so many good things about it and I just didn't enjoy it. It was problematic. It was yeah, not the best, so maybe that one. I wouldn't say it was like a massive disappointment though, because I didn't really have massively high hopes. I just didn't expect it I didn't expect to dislike it as much as I did. Biggest surprise? I'm not sure. I think maybe Strange the Dreamer. I knew that it was good and I knew that a lot of people have recommended it, but I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. But in the interest of keeping this interesting and using different answers, I might go with Come Tell Me How You Live by Agatha Christie. Her husband was an archaeologist and she wrote a book about her experiences accompanying him on digs. And the first like chapter or so I was really hooked, and then I got kind of bored of it, and then I got really invested in it again, and it was a really like wholesome, nice read. And if you are interested in archaeology or you are an archaeologist, I would definitely recommend reading it. I wasn't expecting it to like it as much as I did, and part of the reason I was surprised was because of how much I ended up liking it despite the sort of hurdle at the start. So yeah, I think that one was a bit of a surprise. New favourite author, debut or new to me. I'm just seeing what books on here are by authors that I haven't read anything before. I think it's going to have to go to Hank Green again. All of these books on here I've already read books by them, or they weren't good enough to be like a new favourite. So yeah, Hank Green. I already think he's fantastic. I've been following his work for years and years and years. With John, of course, as like the Ball Brothers, but I've never read his work as an author before, and I don't know if I've expressed this yet in this video. I very much enjoyed this book. Underrated gem I've discovered recently. I'm not really sure about this one. I would say the Come Tell Me How You Live, but it's by Agatha Christie, so I hardly think she deserves to be on the underrated gem, but I do think it is an underrated book, and I think in terms of like if you're interested in archaeology I would read it, but I don't know how underrated it is as it's Agatha Christie. I don't know if I'm maybe going to say, I have the book here actually, most of my books are home, but I have this one. Stiff by Mary Roach. I read this for my dissertation. I only finished it a few days ago. I mentioned it in a reading vlog a couple of videos back. I am going to put a major content warning on this, so it is very interesting. It is about like human remains and what things you can do with them after like someone dies, so using them for like certain experiments or like crash test dummies, or like ways that you can like dispose of human remains, so like alternative ways to cremation and burial and things like that. It was very interesting, but if you are at all affected by death or discussions of dead bodies, or like dead bodies decaying, or like there's one particular scene where she goes to the body farm, which is like where they watch bodies decompose, and there is some very graphic descriptions of what happens to a body. So yeah, major content warning, but I really enjoyed this. Again, I don't know how underrated it is. I hadn't heard of it until I picked it up for my dissertation. It does literally have the international bestseller written on it, but I think that's the best I can do. It was between this and Agatha Christie, so. Rereads this year. I don't really reread books, so I guess some of these are like, 2 of these are sort of half rereads, so I'll mention them. So the first one would be the original Hitchhiker's radio scripts. I've never read the radio scripts before. I've listened to the radio programme or certain versions of it, and I've of course read the original books many times, but I have never read the original radio scripts. But I read them, again, vlog on my channel somewhere about that. And also The Sea of Monsters, Percy Jackson Book 2 was also technically a reread because I did read them all when I was a kid, but I have zero memory of anything that happens in the book at all. None whatsoever. I just have a vague concept in my brain of having read them at some point. I knew nothing. So it was basically reading it for the first time. A book that made you cry. I don't think I've ever cried at a book. Sorry, I just don't. It just don't hit me that way. A book that made me happy. I've kind of already listed the books that I enjoyed, and I'm going to say that they were probably the books that made me the happiest because I enjoyed them the most. But again, to mention a different book to keep this a bit more interesting, I'm going to go with Wild About the Girl by Louise Pentland, the second book in the Robin Wilde series. This just made me happy because it was such a happy book. Like, there was some bits that were like low, drab, like, why are you doing this to this character, stop being so mean. But then the ending and like her attitude throughout the book is so uplifting and so like cheerful and nice and wholesome, that it's probably the happiest book on this list. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that. The most beautiful book I've bought so far this year. What have I bought so far this year? What's on my bookshelf? I bought From Here to Eternity. This is quite a nice book. I bought this book and I really like the design of this, which is the next book I'm going to read for my dissertation, which is From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Dowdy, or Ask a Mortician on YouTube. Oh, I did buy this in a charity shop the other day. Second book in the Chaos Walking series, which is a very nice edition. Picked this up in a charity shop. It has been read, but it is, I mean, I just love some sprayed edges. So the last question, or at least on this version of the tag that I am looking at, it is, what are your goals for the rest of the year? So I want to do some more dissertation reading. I have 2 more books that I want to read that are like more like chill books that I want to read, but obviously I'm going to have to read some heavier, more academic style things as well, which will probably put a bit of a damper on the books that I'm going to read for the rest of the year, because I will be spending time doing dissertation reading instead. I want to, read more books, trying to get as close to that 40 goal as I can. Don't think I am going to get there, but try and get as close as I can. I want to try and make some more progress on some of the series that I'm reading, because I've made quite a bit of progress this year. I've finished a couple of series or advanced on a couple of series. I'm currently reading Winter by Marissa Meyer, which is the last book in the Lunar Chronicles series. I'm 300 pages in, but it is 800 pages long. So yeah, I'm gonna finish that, and then I think I might read this, because I already have the 3rd book, which means that I can sort of binge that series. Just trying to make some headway in some series, I think, is my goal. Quickly before I go, I'm going to plug some things that I've been plugging at the end of every one of my videos, because I've been trying really hard on it and I really want some people to check it out. Would be that I have been making a Depop, basically. I have been making resin craft things, I've been selling some vintage clothes, and I've also been bleach dyeing t-shirts. This is one of the ones that I did, but I'm keeping this one because of my Diet Coke addiction. So yeah, there's a bunch of them up on my Depop. I think there's 3 at the moment, but I'm planning on posting more soon. I did film a video where I bleached some shirts with Carla, but I think this video is going to go up first, because then it's closer to the middle of the year. But that video should be going up soon. Yeah, please check it out. I've put so many hours into like making the stuff and photographing it, and like working out like SEO stuff for the description, and like I would really appreciate it if you check it out or send it to someone who you think they might like. It will be the first link in the description. So yeah, if you have any questions, then leave them down in the comments. New videos every Wednesday, like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you next week. I should ask you a question. I've been doing that, haven't I? Let me know down in the comments what your favourite book you've read this year was.
Okay, cool, bye.